Well, good afternoon, good day, and thanks for being with us here on this Friday on the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. We're ready to get things underway. We've got football to talk about. Yeah, we just messing around all summer long, kind of waiting for the end of August and for football to start, and it was ushered in out in Las Vegas, of all places, over the last few days, where all the Big Ten coaches and many players convened to kick off or have the unofficial start of the 25 college football season in the Big Ten. Michigan was there. We're ready to talk about it with you. Maybe you watched a lot of it, some of it, read about it, heard about it, whatever. I'm going to give you my takeaways on what I saw out there. Got some Hiter news. Savion Hiter, 5-star, top running back in the country. We have an update on Hiter, if you haven't heard that. And then in another spot where maybe you have not heard the news, give you thoughts. You're probably going to have some thoughts here on Michigan. Likely, looks like, all but official that they're going to play next year's opener in Europe. Woo! In Germany, in Frankfurt. So we'll get to that. The pluses and minuses, whether or not you like it, I like it. You know, all of that. But we do start in the Big Ten with the coaches' meetings, and you watch all the coaches go up there, then they go off to the side, and they're speaking with reporters. And on the Maize and Blue Review, you have all of that text, all of the answers, all of the questions. And I could just sit here and just read off play what Sherrone Moore had to say, but that doesn't seem like it would be very interesting. If people wanted or were interested in that, they could, have taped it on the Big Ten Network. You can go back and watch that. So I'll give you my takeaways. Sherrone Moore knows what he's doing when he gets in front of a camera and has a microphone. He's got that. He knows how to command a room, command an audience. That was something that I saw from him years ago when he would do as an assistant. He would go up and talk to the media. And I remember when I saw him that he's got what it takes to be a head coach. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into being a head coach, but being able to stand up in front of people and communicate, it's part of the job. He's good at it, and he did a good job up there representing Michigan. He looked good. He said everything that you would want a head coach at Michigan to say. I mean, he went right down the line. I mean, it was a team effort. Michigan is a team first, team effort, and they're all looking forward to going to practice next week. That was good. And you could tell that, yeah, he really likes this team. That's good, man. But when you hear him talk about it, did I agree with all of it? I mean, if you just agreed with all of it, you're thinking, man, Michigan could have a great season. They're going to have a great season. I mean, Sherrone Moore thinks they're stacked at every position. You could come away with that if you're listening to him and saying, oh, yeah, man, this guy, that guy. And so you've got to look through it a little bit, or else you just say, yep, stamp it 12-0, or on their way to the playoffs for sure after listening to Sherrone Moore. But that's part of a coach, too, to get you excited, tell you about his team. Certainly you're not going to go up there and say, oh, yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to stop the run. Yeah, the teams are going to test us out there on the corner. We're going to have to definitely shore that up, whatever, he would say. But, 4 deep at edge, 6 deep at defensive tackle, 6 deep at linebacker. I hear him say all that. I'm thinking, is he right about that? Yeah, I think those guys are all going to play. It really, then comes down to, all right, well, I mean, do you have, I think, quality players? I mean, the quantity is great. So they do have 4 edge players. But do I think do I think that TJ Guy and Derek Moore and Cam Brandt, that you're looking at those guys, Dom Nichols, and you're saying, those are 4 impact edges. Well, we've seen more. Derek Moore, 8-ball. I think everybody would agree. Yeah, that guy's an impact. Might be the guy that ultimately, on defense, would be the highest drafted player. I mean, we've seen him. He's proven. A guy, I would say as well. We saw him last year. He was in the rotation. He looks pretty good. So those two, and then Brandt really came on, and then Nichols, the young guy, he in the spring game, you just see the talent, and it wouldn't be a surprise if he, stealing reps from and playing more, getting in there almost equal time with whatever side, whether it would be Guy or Moore or whatever else, that he would be the standout. He's that good, and they got guys behind him. But then you go to this tackles, and Benny, or Sean Benny, who got hurt last year but is back and is good to go. They brought the 2 transfers in, and they got Trey Pierce. That's where they've got a lot of numbers there, and they've got some depth. But you had the greatest defensive tackle ever at Michigan last year in Mason Graham, and then maybe the biggest, most athletic defensive tackle they ever had, and Kenneth Grant was working in there. You just don't replace those guys. I mean, I know that. So to me, I wonder if Michigan's going to be able to. I don't think they'll be able to stop the run like last year, but I think that they've got that talent, and that the linebackers, I am sold on Houseman, on Barham, on Rolder, on Sullivan. And, a lot of coach speak, I like this guy, I like that guy. But when you hear a coach say that this guy is a freak show, an absolute freak show, and he's going to take the college football world by storm. That's what he said about Cole Sullivan. I mean, that's not just we really like him. He's really coming along. Boy, he's a young guy to keep an eye on. No, he's an absolute freak. And he's going to take the college football world by storm. Cole Sullivan, number 23. That jumped out at me yesterday listening to Sherrone Moore. Many of you, and when we do shows like Who Do You Like, who's going to be an impact guy, who's kind of an under radar impact guy, who's your guy, all those kind of things. Sullivan's name popped up a bunch, and now it should be right there front and center. Sullivan is going to take the college football world by storm. I'm ready for that. Now, on the other side of the ball, if I was going to just list question marks for Michigan's offense, I would start at the quarterback position. We talk a lot about the quarterback position, but left tackle, wide receiver. And when you hear Sherrone Moore say Donovan McCulley, reminds him of Nico Collins when he was at Michigan. Nico Collins, one of the best wide receivers in all of football now for the Texans. I like hearing that. I like hearing that when I'm just taking everything in. And yeah, the coach was heaping praise on lots of players, but when you really start looking at the big time praise, McCulley and Sullivan, those guys, it jumped out to me. Also, some of that weight room stuff. Eno Etta, 320 pounds of lean mass, and Pauly, who everyone likes when we watch the film with Jim Scarcelli over and over, you'd say, boy, this Pauly guy, this 54, who is he? Well, he's Penei Sewell's cousin, for one. Lions right tackle. But the other thing, he looks pretty good and made a lot of plays. He went from, what did they say, 370 to 340-ish now. That's what you like to hear when it comes down to it, when you hear some of those weights and weight room stuff. And then Not to be forgotten, and maybe burying the lead is the quarterback. And you're thinking about Bryce Underwood and everything that Sherrone Moore was going to say about him. He does everything the right way. All right. Also, that he came in he's put on 15 pounds. He's 230. Now, 230. Remember when people would say, well, he looked a little chubby or whatever at the spring game, and he came out there and he didn't look chubby at all. He looked great. And then, he's 230. If you look up some quarterbacks that are 6'5" and you look at them, it'd be interesting. The Ben Roethlisberger is listed at 6'5", 240. He probably got up closer to 250. Let's be honest. You're watching him. Roethlisberger, I don't know, maybe 260 might be a little bit too much, but if and I believe Sherrone Moore saying that Underwood is 230. I think that's good news. You got to be able to stand in the pocket, take some hits, be able to move around a little bit. And the kid's just 17 years old. How many times we're going to be able to say that? A lot, because he still has not turned 18. So all good things. I didn't hear anyone listening to the players that were there. You had Derek Moore and Ernest Hausman and Max Bredesen. Whenever they talk about Underwood, they say he doesn't look like a freshman, doesn't play like a freshman, doesn't look like a freshman. I thought he looked like a freshman in the spring game, but that's already been a while back. But they were saying, that was one practice and one, spring game. A lot of the guys were saying the same thing over the course of those 15 practices, that he did not look like a freshman. And then Jake Butt, the whole proceedings were all on the Big Ten Network. They do a good job. All the different interviews and everything with Jake Butt is in there. And he's good, like him. He could, he knows what to say and he knows what to ask. And then Butt said that the first 4 games of the Michigan schedule, we're going to know who the Wolverines are. I completely agree with that. I mean, there's all kinds of different things you can say about, well, when do you know that Michigan's going to be for real? You can say after the Oklahoma game. I would agree with that a little bit. But 2 road games, and I think 2 about top-notch opponents, but quality opponents. Oklahoma, desperate for a victory, a early season intersectional matchup in Norman against Michigan. I mean, that's a big, to get their best game, obviously. That'd be a huge win. And then going to Nebraska, a lot of people, one of those teams that you put an up arrow. If Michigan somehow gets victories in those games, so they'd be 4-0, and you just start looking, all right, well, they can beat Wisconsin at home. They win those 2 road games. Then, they can go out to USC. They're going to be a top 5 team. It's setting up to be very exciting, all of what's going on when it comes down to it, when you look at all of that. So I liked it. I liked what I heard from Sherrone Moore. I liked what I heard from him talking about his team and the players. If you had any observations or anything that you wanted to point out about what happened in Vegas, it doesn't have to stay there. It doesn't have to stay in your mind. You can throw it out there and say, hey, I really liked this aspect of what was going on. So there it is. Them fans ready. He needs Michigan football. Well, it's coming. It is happening. That light at the end of the tunnel, that is a train, and it's coming right at you. Amazing Blue train. It is going. Already talking about the European game. We're going to get to that coming up, M-Fan. That is for sure. Wow. I thought Michigan Mark was gone. In the championship season, Michigan Mark would be on this show. He would be making good point after good point after good point. I don't know what I said to you, Mark, to run you off for a couple months, a couple years. But it's good to see you back in here. Mark says last year, Media days, Michigan high on the quarterback room, finished second to last in the Big Ten. How good are the U of M quarterback assessment skills? Really optimistic, but heavily guarded about what is said. Yeah, I think that's a smart approach. I think about myself last year. You're making predictions, prognostications, and all of this, and last year, coming off the championship season, I almost felt like, why spoil anything? Why say anything, even if you believe it, or why just let it ride until you don't have to. And that was part of my approach with Michigan last year, to be honest. I just wanted to. It was a year that's going to be remembered forever. Even if Michigan wins the championship this year, next year, whatever, they're always going to go and remember 23 fondly. But having experienced 97 and knowing how long it could take and just enjoying it and really savoring it and everything else, maybe it's like just sitting at that nice steakhouse and saying, you know what, I don't want to get up. I just want to sit here and let's have another. Give me another one or whatever. Bring the dessert menu over here. So I get that part. And here we are being optimistic about the court, being optimistic about anyone, however you're going to do it. It's the one thing for me about Bryce Underwood. It was weird, Mark. I got to tell you this, that, they got Underwood. It's been great ever since they got him right before the Northwestern game last year. He wasn't on the field, and yet, they beat Northwestern and get bowl eligible. They beat Ohio State, beat Alabama. Everybody knows that. Great offseason and everything else, but you had a lot of fans saying, and I knew that, you get the highest rated quarterback you ever got for Michigan, and fans are just going to be in a tizzy. And so, of course, they were. But I remember just looking at the Rivals rankings, and everybody's like, this guy's number one. He's a 5-star and all this. And I looked at Rivals, and they had the quarterback for Ohio State ranked in front of. They had Underwood number two overall player, but they had this kid from Ohio State number one. And so when I heard everybody saying, "Oh, this kid's just going to be magic right away," he's 1 in a million, I had to take a step back and I had to say, look, I don't know how many times I said this on the air. I didn't want to spoil it for everyone else either. Every year there's one or two or three 5-star quarterbacks, and all of those kids go places, and all of their fan base, thinks the guy's going to be the chosen one and the greatest one ever. But it was no use telling people to temper their expectations or anything like that. And then On3 and Rivals merged, and they took their brain trust and all the dudes that were evaluating for On3, and then the same thing with Rivals, and they put that all together, and they came out with a new ranking. The Rivals On3, the Rivals 300, you can see it. I looked, and they had Bryce Underwood as the now number one player. So he overtook the kid from Ohio State with the combined rankings. And, the rankings change. You get bumped up, get bumped down. But the first ever combination Rivals On3 had Underwood with a, 99.8 something rating. Yeah, that's a pretty good rating. And then I saw someone say, this kid's going to be, you've heard this a lot, probably. He's going to be the best since Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence won the national championship in 2018, came in after 4 or 5 games, and he was spectacular. Now, he had number one defense in the country. He had a great running back in Travis Etienne, T. Higgins, Renfro, Justin Roberts, loaded team. But they won it all. Absolutely spectacular season. And so when people are like, oh, he's the best since Bryce Underwood, well, I started going back down through the years to say, Lawrence, how much more of a rating? They've got the composites, and then On3 Rivals calls it the industry rating, which is the same thing, a composite score. Underwood had even a better score than Trevor Lawrence. He has a better composite industry score than Jeremiah Smith, than Rashawn Gary, than Jadeveon Clowney, than Myles Garrett. I just kept going back. Arch Manning, you name it. Quinn Ewers, Underwood, higher score. Now there's just decimal points. But it's amazing the decimal points, what they can do for you. I was like, is there going to be anybody that has a higher rating ever? If I keep going back, and I finally got to 2004 and AP all day, Adrian Peterson had a perfect 100 score. But that's it. And then they didn't really have the composites. And they just started doing it here in the 21st century, although some of us can remember that football back in even recruiting in the 20th century. But so from what I'm looking at with this new combination score, industry score, Underwood is the number 1 ranked player ever, quarterback, and the number 2 ever behind Adrian Peterson. Should that mean something to me? Should I be like, oh, I'm warming up to the idea that this guy's just going to be great sooner rather than later? It's just a matter of time. I do think it's just a matter of time. When you get the greatest, and I know you could go through a list of guys that ended up, even falling flat on their faces, but there's a lot when they say this is the number 1. This is the best ever. Those guys, like, they hit more times than not. So I would say, I'm not telling anybody to temper their expectations for Underwood. I'm saying the first couple games, I'm not expecting him to be the greatest thing ever right away, but I am expecting him to be great. And even in his true freshman season, it feels like it's just going to be a matter of time. So yeah, I'm not rushing anything on there, but it feels like at some point this season that he is going to be all of that. So there you go. Don't fold into the fourth quarter. I don't know what's happening. This is a make or break quarterback development story for Michigan. Have my fingers crossed. Well, make or break with Bryce Underwood. Yeah. Bryce Underwood has to be a great quarterback at Michigan. So I think that thinking that if he's not a great quarterback, it would be a break. Someone's going to lose their job. It could be the very top guy if it ends up going south. So, yeah. And even if it wasn't the quarterback. But, yeah, when you get the greatest quarterback of all time, ranked, and it doesn't come up with spectacular results, then, yeah, somebody is going to end up paying for that. So, there it is. All right, so those were my thoughts. Oh, one more thing. I thought it was a little interesting. I saw there's media that, if there was one thing that they were throwing up there, it seemed like this was noteworthy. Sherrone Moore said, no more flag planting. And I thought, what do I think about that? First thing I thought is we'll see. Because, and Moore said it's going to show sportsmanship and they're going to be cordial moving forward. And it was a little bit interesting. Now, we'll see in 2 years in Columbus if that's going to be the case. It's a long time to say there's no flag planting, and then, you'll be in Columbus in 2026, and we'll see what happens there. It's interesting to me because the flag planting took on a life of its own. Jim Harbaugh, when they did it, whatever that was, 3 years ago, when they won in Columbus, that it was Harbaugh loved it. He wasn't saying anything about, they got their emotions, and he loved it. I don't have his specific quotes, but he didn't back down anything. He talked about putting a flag in the museum or something like that. He liked it. And Sherrone Moore, he liked it too. Sherrone Moore had that flag in the football office right up front, right after the game. And I remember that the next press conference, someone took a picture of it, and boy, of just the flag sitting there, and the Michigan fans online, they just, I mean, it was like they had, I don't know, had seen, like, I don't know, it was it. Had seen everything. The players loved it. The coaches loved it. The media, who are largely fans, if we're going to be honest about that, they loved it. And we know the fans loved it. It was like the flag planting at Michigan was like, the Jumpman logo. People were so into it. Like when Usain Bolt had his victory pose. That's how much Michigan fans liked it. And even Sherrone Moore in the days, in the weeks, and then in the month or whatever, he was over there gesturing at the basketball game of flag planting. And so only to 6 months later be like, well, we're going to show some sportsmanship and be cordial. I don't know. I can see how people are going to be like, okay, after you went through all of that, now you're talking about sportsmanship. Fine. I will see. We're going to see what happens in 2 years down there. And, it's largely going to be on the players, but you could say, well, coach, where was all the sportsmanship when you were on that basketball? But now that the dust has settled, all right. But that's where my thoughts there. It was one of those more interesting parts where you see it and it gets you, or it definitely just gets the juices flowing and it gets you talking. There's a lot of Michigan fans be like, I don't like that. I love the flag, because you do. You loved it. But what about sportsmanship? Okay. What about sportsmanship? Sportsmanship, that was like, it's still, they're kids. That was always what I heard, which was true. They're just kids. It was emotional. It's a rivalry. People love it. People love the rivalry. Now, it's going to be a show of sportsmanship, and Michigan is going to be cordial. A guy who could make a big impact in that Michigan-Ohio State game in 26 down there in Columbus is making news today. That is Savion Hiter, 5-star running back out of Virginia. Michigan in the mix for him. Some days you wake up, feel like it might be Tennessee. Other days, Michigan. I don't know, Georgia, Ohio State still in there. However it's going to go. But Hiter is making news, and the news is that he is making a commitment announcement coming up on August the 19th. Mark your calendars. I feel like I might want to have a Hiter party show. We'll see about that. A Savion Hiter party, watch party, maybe. But the 5-star running back is going to announce on August the 19th. Now, what does August the 19th jump out to anyone out there? Because it did to me. It's Bryce Underwood's birthday. On August the 19th, Underwood turns 18. What a birthday. Surprise, gift. Would it be? It would be. It'd be both of those. It'd say, what a birthday surprise. What a birthday gift. Hiter. Cut from a different cloth, knew it? So Underwood turns 18 on the 19th, and Hiter, I'm going to find out when his birthday is, but he's making his announcement on that day. Does it matter what goes into a commitment date? I think there's going to be some further research that needs to be done. When's Hiter's birthday? Why is he announcing on the 19th? That's just some random day that he came up with? Why did he pick the 19th? Let's check it. Vino knew it. Let's go. That might be the new date to make it happen. It might be. Now, if Hiter commits to Michigan on the 19th and it's Bryce Underwood's birthday, that might be some kind of, I'm going to declare some kind of holiday in Ann Arbor. A recruiting holiday. You could say that it was always the first Wednesday in February, but they moved that thing around. We really don't have one. And then we don't have one specifically for Michigan. I am going to declare that August the 19th is a holiday in Ann Arbor. Now we'll see if that holiday holds up. Because if they were able to get, not only have it Underwood's birthday, but then they got Hiter, well, then you could understand the excitement of that particular day. Then it would be like, let's get, I feel like I'm first in on that one. I am the one that declared it. So there it goes. Old Hadley. Do you think the Michigan State game will have another brush up after what happened the last 2 years? Well, what happened the last year? Last year we had the kind of disgruntled Spartan defensive end firing across, or whatever it was, the tight end, firing across the line when the game was over, coming at close and Leveland. Leveland was like, all right, let's go. And then it ended up to be a pushing and shoving out there. And then the year before it was the tunnel situation. Is that right? So the 2 straight years. Now, when Sherrone Moore Hadley was talking about flag planting and talking about sportsmanship and cordial, he didn't mention anything about Michigan State. However, I did see Sean Windsor of the Free Press writing a story about, I forgot what the title was, but that felt like it was his, that to me, it felt like that was his opinion, that Michigan they're brushing up or polishing up their sportsmanship approach. And he mentioned Michigan State in there. Yeah, I thought myself, Hadley, and I said it when it happened, that they could put different rules in. Michigan could have their own rule regarding the tunnel, and they went about it a different way. They didn't take it to the drastic measures. I was talking about a divider and everything else. They just hold people up, whatever. And then I thought that there should be, at the end of a game, that you should have to wait until the officials tell you that you can actually enter the field of play. Because before that, you can't. We all understand you can't be out there. You get a penalty. But you see the players and coaches. And that's what happened with Michigan State. The game, it was over, and then it ended up being unnecessary. But they have not put that rule in. I don't even know if they talked about it. So this is this Sherrone Moore taking ownership himself with Ohio State, and also with the same thing with Michigan State? The thing about Michigan State is that unless you watch it really close and try to be objective about the whole thing, when I saw it, I was like, they were kind of both at fault, and then it kind of just spilled over. And then remember, you saw the leg come up, and you didn't know what was going on. Everybody got all worked up and everything. But as it was pointed out when you're watching the tape, that the guy came firing across, not even going after the ball. He was asking for a little bit of a dust up there. Would a player that knows he has won the game over Michigan State, and if someone comes after him right in their face after a game, is he just going to be like, nope, we're going to be cordial here? It's hard. Do I think that there'll be another brush up? Possibly. What I think happens nowadays, if you don't put the rules in, and it's on the coach, and the coach can say whatever he wants, but You don't punch a guy during a game because you're going to get thrown out of a game and you're going to hurt your team. After the game, what's going to happen? Yeah, you could get suspended for the next game, which could be a big deal. But you get some pushing and shoving. You end up being on TV. Heck, you might end up making some of the highlights for the next year's game or on down the line. You see it with Michigan, Ohio State all the time. I don't know if Tony Batiti, I don't know what he's doing. I saw Sherrone Moore was, complimenting him or whatever, thanking him. But did they send out to the athletic directors, like, get a hold of your teams and let's have, not just specifically to Michigan, but across the board, let's be cordial. Let's show some more sportsmanship. Take care of this. We don't want to have to put in any extra measures or rules or anything. That happened. The way I look at it is I'm going to go back and say what I said at the beginning. The fans love it. And the fans all year long, there's shows like this that will be just like screaming and yelling about Michigan, Sparty and they deserve it. They're the little brothers. To hell with them. And, you'd say the same thing about Ohio State. It's going back and forth. And people are like, it's the hatred of a rivalry. We love it. It's the passion of college football. Some people say that's how you measure the passion of a fan base. Just, how much they're lobbing insults back and forth and getting after each other online. And for a lot of people, it's true. And so when you do it all year long and then you get into a game and you expect the players just be like, oh, hey, shaking everybody's hand at the end, it's almost asking too much. So we'll see when it comes down to that. Hadley, do I think there's potential to be a brush up? I do. I think there's potential to be a brush up anytime Michigan plays Michigan State or Ohio State. The players hear it all year long. The fans are on them. The fans want it. Fans want blood. Coaches, if they get away with it, it's all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, there it is. Mark says something like 3 personal fouls against captains who've had none all season. Says it all to me. Yeah, well, there you go. To me, I'm going to say we'll see when it comes down to it with that. Now, this is another we'll see. How do Michigan fans feel about this? So Michigan next year's opener against Western. And it comes down today that it's close to being official. I mean, it's right at the goal line. You got to wait till they punch it in. It'd be interesting if it went the other way because Michigan, it was put a statement out about it. They, pretty much said it's all done except the making it official. So it looks like it's going to happen. That Michigan is going to play Western Michigan. Schools that are separated by, 100 miles. Now they're going to play 3,000 miles away or whatever it is in Frankfurt, Germany. So the first thing you think of is you hate it. This is a Michigan home game. This is, you want Michigan to play at the big house. You like going to the games. This is garbage. They don't care about football in Germany. They just like soccer and whatever else they like in Germany. Handball, I don't know. And this is a joke. And then how do you get off of that? You say, well, you see it in the NFL. Do you like it when it happens in the NFL? I don't know. Most of the time on my Sunday mornings, they're spoken for. Just talking about the NFL for a second. I make my plans to do something else, and then because I'm going to be watching football from 1:00 in the afternoon until 11:00 at night. And so then they're like, oh, well, now you can watch it from 9 in the morning to 11:00 at night. It's like, who's going to do that? Well, me and apparently other people. And then it's like, okay, it's fine. But then your team ends up over there. It's like, I got to watch a 9 o'clock game on a Sunday morning. Well, now they're going to the college ranks. And as somebody said earlier, it was okay, seeing Notre Dame in Ireland. That made sense, As an M fan. The only Euro game that makes any sense is Notre Dame versus Michigan. Oh, he wants to see Notre Dame, Michigan in Ireland. Well, what are they playing in 2033? So, yeah, in 7, 8 years, maybe something like that. You can have it over in Ireland. I don't know. There's a lot of things that you think about. One is that, so you have 2 bye weeks now. This will be, I thought it was going to be week 0. It's saying August 29th. Maybe that still is week 0. Even though this year the opener's on August the 30th, so maybe it's not. But I thought it was going to be on week 0, where you travel and then you come back and then you get a bye week before they play Oklahoma. So you get your warm-up game, hopefully against Western, and then you get an extra week, and then you're playing Oklahoma right at the start. Is that a disadvantage of having to go all the way over there and then come back, but you get an extra week? You're going to get a couple extra days. If it was fly over there and have to play Oklahoma the very next week, that would be disadvantage with all that travel. But so you get an extra week, and you get an extra bye week because you're still going to get your 2 bye weeks during the season. So when it comes down to that, I'm all right with it. You could say, I wouldn't want, if Michigan they do have a home game against Oklahoma next year. If they said, no, you're going to play Oklahoma over in Germany, I'd be like, whoa, I don't like that. But a game that they should win against Western. So from that standpoint, you see it. I wonder myself when it comes down to we talk about the television contracts all the time. They're the ones that say, hey, this is when you're playing. You'll like it because, you get a share of this, gigantic pie that we're giving you. Was this in the television contract where they said at some point we're going to have one of the Big Ten teams, maybe one of the banner teams in the Big Ten, will pick it, and you're going to go over to Europe, and Michigan didn't even have a say? Or do they have a little bit of say where they were asking, hey, which team wants to go? And Michigan was putting their hand up thinking, well, we can make whatever they make for a Michigan home game. They're going to need that, and then they're going to need more. And when you're somebody like Ward Manuel has to sit in all those meetings, and they're always talking about, oh, we got a $20 million deficit that we have to revenue share with. We need to make that up somehow. We pushed through that alcohol sales. We've got, how about picking up a couple extra mil going over to Germany? And it's Western. Easy money. I'm guessing it's a little bit of both. Contract there for the TV. They're looking for a banner team. Ask one of the big teams who's got a lot of home games next year, who wants to make a little bit of extra money, who's up for it, and Ward's hand went up. And I already saw some of the quotes, where from the Michigan standpoint is, like it was something like, look, our players have been over to France and Italy and South America, not South America, South Africa, now Germany, to play a game, and a landmark game, first game, right? And college game in Germany. So I don't know. I like week 0 games. Having Michigan move up a week doesn't sound that bad to me. Just from that standpoint, football comes a week earlier, that you'll be able to get it. I like that. The opponent, it should be a win. You get the extra week for Oklahoma. The downside is that home games in Ann Arbor are what it's all about. There's nothing better than a Michigan football Saturday in Ann Arbor, and you're losing one of those. So, there's a little give and take here. You can afford it, and you're thinking, I've never been to Germany. Yeah, go for a couple of games. Over to Germany. Always been looking for, I don't know, as an excuse to go over there. Sure. I was looking up temperatures in southern Germany. Hamburg is what I was hoping where they were going to play in northern Germany, but it's a little bit of a roll of the dice. It's kind of like playing this game in weather-wise in Ann Arbor. It could be really hot on August 29th. It could be fair. So it's going to be a little bit of the roll of the dice there, but there's a lot of places around Frankfurt for those of you that would be like, I want to go to Germany. One of my favorite churches of all time, not the Chicken Shack, the cathedral in Cologne. So I'm thinking I might even have been to Frankfurt. I don't recall. Maybe not. But I know I went to southern Germany. I bet I had to drive right past it. Maybe it was like, hey, Frankfurt. But Cologne. And I played in a soccer stadium, but they played football, some NFL games there. So there it is. So am I overjoyed with this? Great. It's also part where you have to separate yourself. You love football, you love Saturdays in Ann Arbor, but just like the NFL, that they want to just squeeze as much money out of this sport as they possibly can. It is the most popular thing going in America, football, and you strike and you just exact as much money as you possibly can. You realize it's capital. They're just going to do it. Anything. Is it good for the game? Is it good for the game? That Michigan has to fly all the way. The two teams that should be just playing in Ann Arbor have to, go all the way over to Frankfurt, where nobody likes football at all. They'll fill it up, and it'll sound like a soccer game, and whoop. Not really, but you realize that they're trying to grow the game. And, they'll do, whether you find it silly things or just different things. It's like when they talk about sports and they're just like, we've got to get all of these young kids that are just watching their phones and streaming because they're the next generation. We got to get them hooked on this game. All right. I guess they got a point there. You always got to. If I was running everything, I'd just be sitting back and I'd be like, this game's great. Let's not touch everything. And they'd be like, but we need more money. I always want to be making more. I mean, even if you level off, like, hey, we leveled off more. I don't think it's overall good for the game. Flying all over the place. When they should be playing here. People don't care about it, but does it grow the game? Do I care if they start liking American football in Europe? Not really. But we've seen it, and you just got to come to terms with it. You can complain about it. Go ahead. I've been complaining about it here for a couple minutes. On and on and on. Break it down. There's a few things I don't mind, and there's a few negative things. And in the end, it's like, going to get a little extra money, and if you can get a little extra money, you're always going to do that, it seems like. Oh, there it is. Michigan Mark. TV loves it. Oh, TV loves the controversy, the flag planting, the rivalries. Yes, they do. Mr. Sam. Which would be stranger, Michigan versus Western in Frankfurt, or the Michigan Wolverines traveling to Kalamazoo? Yeah, it's a fair question. Kalamazoo holds, I don't know, 30, 40, I don't know. I've seen it. Michigan State has traveled over to Western. I remember it was just a few years ago. Yeah, it would be strange because, Western can make more money going to Michigan with the check that they get. So Michigan would never want to do that, you know? It's like sometimes people say, well, in Michigan, cold weather game, they could play at Ford Field. You want to play at Ford Field in front of 65,000, or you want to play in front of 110,000 plus? Michigan always wins with that because they have the largest stadium. Sam just making the statement that everybody agrees with. The big house is beautiful to watch on TV. Oh, look, the big house is perfect. It does look great on TV. When I think about it, you look at other football stadiums and you look at their end zones. Sometimes they have the high rise and then you can like see off into the corner and they get different things. It's the symmetry of the big house. Everything about it, you take a look and it looks pretty awesome. Like the aesthetic. A few other places that you think about, some of those night games in the SEC. I like how Notre Dame's stadium looks, and then they've got what's distinctive about them? I don't know what those yellow flowers, chrysanthemums. Is that what I'm trying to say? I don't even know if that's what they are. Let me see if I show me a chrysanthemum. Let's see. Oh, I think there might be chrysanthemums there in Notre Dame. Maybe not. But Michigan Stadium is the best when it comes down to all of it. It's the biggest. It's the coolest. When they renovated it, I was a little bit worried, with the luxury boxes, but it actually looks even better. They did a great job there. They didn't do a good job. When was it? In 2000. When they put the ring of excitement around the stadium, it looked like they'd put one of those Lance Armstrong rubber bands around the big house. It didn't look, and then they had put these like big cartoon footballs of excitement, and stuck those all over there. And everyone saw that. It was like, no, that's ugly. And to Michigan's credit, I don't know how long those the ring that you could see from outer space. I don't know how long that stayed up, but it was. But now what they have, I mean, whoever they said, here are the plans. This is how it looks, and you couldn't ask for anything better. So that's pretty awesome. Sam's talking about not wanting to lose a game in the big house. I mean, I get it. How much money from the TV versus Stadium Gate now? Yeah, I don't know. The Mark, you pay your $1 billion or whatever it is, and then whatever the Big Ten Network gives, the TV deal, what they have in that contract, I don't think they give any of the gate, but they're going to have some different sweeteners in there, that things like they can have you play and they can pick the games that you're going to play at night. Would I want Michigan really to play New Mexico at night for the opener? Not really. I mean, that game's going to be over by halftime. I know it's hot. I mean, there's an advantage. It could be a little cooler at night. I like night games, but I like big games. And, night game makes it feel like it should be a big game. It should be Michigan, Oklahoma, Michigan, which is a night game the following week. Should be Michigan, Notre Dame. Michigan, Fresno, not Michigan, Hawaii. But so they've got those things in there. That's the interesting part, that they already have the idea, it's whatever it's like the Big Ten Network, that they're going to have a game. Or did this just materialize thinking, hey, there's $100 million here to play around with. We can get a bunch of money. We can give the schools a bunch of money, and it's a win-win. Money for everyone. the finer details on that. Did they offer it up where Michigan said, okay, we'll be the ones that go because we can make some money here, or was it in the contract that they could pick anybody they wanted? They're going to pick Michigan. They're going to pick Ohio State. Maybe Oregon, maybe Penn State, but they picked Michigan. I don't know that part. Dave's is saying that not everything about the Big House is even good. Last time I went, the seats are so small that I got to watch a Michigan win and an all clear from the proctologist. Well, yeah, well, I mean, they're benches. They do kind of shoehorn you in there. I get that. I've only sat in the stands a few times, but I'd never had the issue where it was all jam tight or anything else. Go get some of those luxury seats. They're nice, sitting up there, Dave's. That's bad. Sam's talking about with them paying players now, they can't afford to lose revenue by losing a game overseas. Look, they're making money. The television will make money. Western will make money. Michigan will make money. Who loses out money on a game in Germany will be the greater Ann Arbor area. Because Michigan, the 110,000 seats or whatever, the amount of money, what do they make, 20 million or whatever? 10, 20 million? Yeah, what it is. With tickets and parking and concessions, they will have to realize that money. They're not going over there and taking less money, so they'll get more money for doing that. But they're not going to. The coffee shop across the street is going to get nothing, where they would be packed all day long. They don't like it. The businesses around Ann Arbor, they're the ones that, whatever you say, Specken Sie Deutsch or whatever, they don't like it. But Michigan, they'll be all right. Who really wants to see U of M, New Mexico? But the big games really are punishing on the players. Yet the NFL should has 17. Keegan says it should be a more competitive opponent. Kind of silly. If you look at the week 0 games, as I don't have the schedule in front of me, but did Notre Dame play anybody? Did they play Navy 2 years in a row? 1 year? This year, the week 0, Kansas State, Iowa State. Those week 0 games aren't exactly, Ohio State, Texas, or Michigan, Oklahoma, or Michigan, Texas. Oh, yeah. If you were saying that if it was Michigan, Oklahoma next year, then it would seem. Well, not only would it seem that way, it would be, home field advantage is a really big deal. If I'm Michigan, I want to play Oklahoma at the Big House. I don't want to play them in Frankfurt, where the fans don't know a football from a soccer ball. And they're just there getting loaded and cheering like it's a soccer game. So one thing when you watch football games over there, it's a different type of atmosphere. The crowd is just cheering. Like you get out there, there's an ebb and flow. When you watch a football game, you get it. Here's the kickoff. Oh, everybody gets sunny. You make the tackle. You got to take a breath. You kind of wait, see the players come on, everything else. Soccer, you're just making noise the whole time. Because soccer, there's, I don't know, in a 60-minute game, you might have like 1 minute of action. So for the most part, you're just over there just singing songs and screaming. Ah! That's all you do. It's a little different. Comes down to it. All right. So that's it. Heading into the weekend here. Sam At least we don't have a cream puff just before our rival game like the SEC. Nothing wrong with taking a little shot at the SEC. SEC thinks they're better than the Big Ten. And it is one thing that they do. They put those soft games at the end of the year. Exciting. Nice job, SEC. All right. Well, that's going to do it. Thanks so much. We'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. Come join us over on Rivals on 3. It's fun. Maize and Blue Review. We're there. We're talking about all of this all weekend. All Michigan, everything that's going on. Offense, defense, schedule, future opponents, everything under the sun. It's their recruiting. It's happening. So we'll see you over there on the Maize and Blue Review. Everyone have a great weekend. Thanks so much for watching the show, and we'll talk with you on Monday.